I'm a positivity psychologist. Is that even a thing? Well, yeah, it is. What is positive psychology and why is it important? I've introduced in other videos that there is a spectrum or a continuum to our psychology. Everything that we experience psychologically, if you put it on that continuum of sick on the far left end of that spectrum to, what is it on the far right? Well, to understand that, if we go to the middle, that's health, meaning not sick. Not sick. You know, you can be sick, having a fever, throwing up, just sick, and there comes a time when you're not sick. You can get out of bed. You're not sick. That doesn't mean you're truly fit, thriving, prospering. That's over here on this end. Thinking about that spectrum, positive psychology can be thought of as handling this end of the spectrum, over here on the right end. Whereas, shall we call it negative psychology? I don't know that we call it that, but maybe traditional psychology was focused on the sick end of the spectrum, the pathology end of the spectrum. Which, quite frankly, is one of the things that caused me to start thinking, wait, what can we do to assist people on the positive end of the spectrum? We're really good at diagnosing and treating mental illness. There are so many resources available, lots of supportive research, but traditionally this positive end of the spectrum has been ignored up until maybe the past decade or so, and it's gaining momentum. There are studies coming out, there's research, there's all kinds of clinical and other experience that is helping us to understand the importance of positive psychology. Think of it as the psychology of thriving, not just being okay or not sick. What is it that contributes to joy and thriving and prospering? And there are some principles that actually contribute to that. Let's make a few distinctions. What is positive psychology? Well, let's start with what it's not, shall we? Because there are some misconceptions out there. Positive psychology is not being unrealistically happy and giddy all the time. Not what it is. Some people get sucked into that when they think, oh, you're just overly optimistic. I've been accused before of being pathologically positive, which became the title of my book. I actually embraced that. I remember someone telling me once, oh, Dr. Paul, you're so Pollyanna-ish. And I wasn't even sure, is that a compliment or a criticism? I wasn't sure. Pollyanna, do you remember the old Disney movie of the little girl who's always optimistic and positive about everything? That's Pollyanna. Well, I went back and read the book. The book and the movie, they're the same story, but the book goes into more detail. Check this out. This girl, Pollyanna, 11 years old, when she is orphaned. At the age of 11, you know what's going on. It's not like she was oblivious to the fact that her life had just fallen apart. She gets shipped across the country on a train to live with her snooty rich aunt, who's surrounded by people who are grumpy. This is not an ideal situation for an 11-year-old girl. Her father, who was a minister, before he died, had taught her a game. It was a game, people. She called it the glad game. And the glad game is, how can I take any circumstance that I'm in? Don't care what it is. How can I take any circumstance and find something to be glad about? Her father had taught her that there's always something to be glad about in any circumstance. It was a game. And this girl was playing it on purpose. Why? For the purpose of elevating her own life, of having a better experience with what it is. She didn't get to choose that she became an orphan. She didn't get to choose that she was being shipped across the country to live with grumpy people. She did get to choose what she would look for in every circumstance that would help her to feel glad. Brilliant. I love it when people accuse me of being Pollyanna-ish because it's on purpose, for the purpose of elevating my life experience. I'll take that any day. How about you? You on board with me? Positive psychology is not being unrealistically positive and optimistic. Positive psychology is not denying the pain or the problems that come up in our life. Pollyanna didn't deny it. She simply played a game with it. Positive psychology is not simply telling people in a trite, fluffy way, oh, just think positive. No. In fact, that's nauseating. And it irritates and annoys me when people look at it that way. Now that we've set up a little bit of a contrast, what is it then? Positive psychology is an intentional choice to see what's positive. Like Pollyanna with the glad game. Positive psychology is seeing life the way it truly is, with upsides and downsides, and not getting sucked into that delusion that this is bad, even if it's painful. I call it a delusion because painful is sometimes equated with bad. We link those two things up and think that they're the same thing. Painful does not equal bad. Painful equals painful. And there are upsides and downsides about everything. Positive psychology puts you in a position to accurately and clearly see the world the way it is, without all of those delusions. Positive psychology is taking a higher and more intentional level of control over our own mental processes. Two in particular, I label them evaluation or judgment of our life, and creation, our ability to move forward and build something from what we've already got. Positive psychology is experiencing a richer and more full experience in our relationships, in our mental health, in our life. We get to have more peace, more joy, more contentment, more satisfaction, no matter what our circumstances are. Our circumstances just don't matter as much as we think they do. That part is delusional. Our circumstances give us a context, for sure, but no matter what our circumstances are, we can experience a higher level of peace and joy and love and satisfaction through the power of positive psychology. You can see that this is important. Understanding how to operate the equipment, powerful. Are you ready to power up your positivity? Check out positivitypowerup.com. I think you're going to like this.